Hey Mung Beans. I'm Joey.
I'm Ashley.
And this is Whine Time Mysteries.
If you're into true crime,
And if the paranormal gets your nips hard,
then this is for you. But before we get started,
make sure to follow us on Spotify and stalk us on Insta and TikTok.
or send your inquiries to winetimemysteries@gmail.com, and we promise to at least try to get back to you.
Lego!
You should tell everyone what we got up to last night.
It was a 6-person orgy.
Ew, what? Ew! We thought it'd be a good idea to go late at night and go for a walk through like the forest area near our house. I don't like haunted houses, so...
But I would like for the record to state that it was your idea.
Was it? I thought it was yours.
It was yours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a great idea. So it was a lot of me walking around trying not to focus what's around me because there's no lights and it's really scary. And
when you're in a situation like that, you really get to learn a lot about a person.
oh yeah, I'm the girl in a murder movie that like you don't know how they're still alive because they're just like grasping onto everyone else, but somehow they're still alive. That's me. Because then Andrew, my hubby, would walk out in front and then try and run off, and then Joe would like walk a little bit in front, and I was like, don't you fuckers leave me behind for me to get grabbed.
I wasn't walking in front at all. Thank you very much.
You did get dragged in front.
Your dog was walking in front.
Yeah.
And I was holding her back.
Until Andrew ran off and then...
And then I threw my phone in the air.
Yeah.
All caught on footage, actually.
Yeah. All on footage. Maybe we'll share, depending on how much I feel like embarrassing myself.
Or how much I can bleep out. Fuck. And, well, the C word.
Oh my god, get fucked. No, fuck this. Oh, fuck, I'm fucking done.
Fuck you. Do you want to go this way? Nah, get fucked. Okay.
It's scary.
I want to
at
go
night time.
home. I'm done. Yeah, this way's home. You're lying to me.
Yeah. That is the meanest thing to do. It was fun though.
I had fun. I don't think I'm in a rush to do it again.
Oh, never again.
Yeah. I wasn't so scared of... I wasn't scared of anything paranormal. It was more wildlife.
No, mine's paranormal.
And then, like, the huntsman that jumped onto the path.
Oh, yeah.
That I was the only one who saw.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm just not about that. As a child, I'd go through haunted houses and I'm like, just keep focused. Don't look anywhere else. Just focus. And then if something jumps out, just look past it and just pretend it's not there. That's how I go through my life. I saw this meme and I was like, it sums me up. I'm not afraid of being alone in the dark. I'm afraid of being in the dark with whatever else is fucking around me.
That's why I'm probably a little bit more scared of the ocean. It's like I'm not scared of the water. I'm scared of what's in it.
Yeah, like if you get too far deep out and then you can't see what's down the bottom.
But you don't even need to get that far. Like, bull sharks can come in like knee length and get you.
No, thank you.
Like knee depth water. And that's just not what I'm here for.
No.
Anyway, what are we here to talk about today, Del?
Well, dull. Why
Thank
is
you.
it every time I say a word, it sounds dull? My story today is going to be a little bit different to what I normally do.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm still trying to get, like, the flow, like my ant flow, you know?
Your ant flow.
Yeah. Aunt. What's, like, words today? Who knows?
My little itty-bitty little flow.
Ugh. No, that's not sexual. That's disgusting.
Yeah,
that goes blood flaps all over again.
Oh, no.
It is going to be about murder, but the thing that's a bit different this time, it's about mental health as well. But yeah, I think because this one involves mental health, I'm a little bit on the fence. Just, I kind of feel a little bit sorry for the murderer, and it makes me a bit, don't know how I feel. So I'm very curious to see what the listeners have to say and what you've got to say about it once I give you the little story. So, small disclaimer, mental health issues or not, it is not okay to murder someone. Yeah. So, it's another Australian story, of course, because I like learning about my country, finding out all the fucked up shit that goes on. So, I feel like our media doesn't really report our murder cases and stuff as much as what we see overseas.
Yeah, like if there's a missing person, they will do that. Like
all over.
Michael, Daniel Morecambe, Maddie, like they did that a lot. But if it's a murder,
yeah, you'd be like, a man was, and they don't go into detail, and you're like, okay, but what happened? So this one, all right, is about Francis Michael Fahey, also known as the Valley Ripper, going a bit off Jack the Ripper, you know, just in case you didn't know. Well, now you know. And also called the Red Light Killer. I don't like either of those names.
I think Fortitude Valley when you say Valley Killer.
Yeah,
I know
well,
that's
is.
not.
It is.
Oh, like Brisbane Fortitude Valley?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, we'll get into the details
okay.
now.
This is local.
Yeah, it's local. That's why I don't think we're cool enough to be called, like, the Valley Ripper, because it's the Fortitude Valley. And I don't see that as, like, a red light district or, you know, whatevs.
And it's dirty out there.
So on August 8th, 2002, hold on to your nips.
And steady your hips.
Oh, yeah, you just wait. So a truck driver pulled into an empty lot, apparently just to turn around. He's just doing his thing. I also saw that it was kind of in the middle of the day, which is interesting once you hear the words that I'm about to say. So, having to do a manoeuvre, U-turn, whatever, he made a grim discovery. He found the body of a woman laying in a fetal position, half naked, only wearing a black top and boots. She was currently in the stage of rigor mortis, so thought to have been killed 4 to 6 hours ago. She had been stabbed 14 times to her chest and back, and her throat had been slit. And I couldn't find the exact time that he found her, but there was a fair few reports saying it was around 11 a.m.
Was this in the valley?
You just wait. The blade was long, leaving wounds up to 16 centimetres deep.
Was it like a machete?
You just wait. Now, weird thing, there was not a lot of blood at the scene as well, which shows that she had been dumped there, as officers had stated it appeared to be a frenzied attack. So you stab that many times, there's bound to be blood everywhere. Would you like me to mention where this section of land was?
Sure.
You ready? It's super close. It was at Hendra, a suburb on Brisbane's north side in Queensland, and was directly beside the Hendra police station. Now, I know you know where Hendra is. You know where the confectionery warehouse is? And the cop shop's there?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the cop shop, it was to the left. 2002, if you look at Google photos, there's just where all those new shops are now. It was just a vacant block of land. And it is literally right next to the police station. So there's just a body there. When you look at photos later, like, because you can see the body but it's blurred out, you'll be like, how did no one else notice this? Yeah, very strange. So super odd, right? She wasn't murdered here. The body appeared to have been dumped literally right next to a police station, which gets you thinking, does he want to be caught? Trying to literally, I even heard the words, like a cat bringing a, mouse to the...
He has a gift.
Yeah, like, what murderers literally put it next to a police station. That just doesn't happen. The body had no ID on them, but they were later to be discovered as 41-year-old mother of 3, Jasmine Crathern. I think that's how you say it, because I don't want to be disrespectful. So I want to take you to a bit of Ash's wine time. What do you like to call it?
Are we heading to Wine Time University?
The only university I've ever been to.
Same.
Now, can I just say, it is so sad to see the victim's past or place of work brought up in the murders, as if the media is trying to make her look bad. Like, I know it might help out with the story as to why the person did what they did, why there's an issue around it, whatever. But, like, everywhere I saw in the media, they mentioned she was a prostitute, which is fine, but they also wanted to bring up that she was a heroin addict and just got out of jail after being charged on some stealing offences. Like, yes, I know I'm bringing it up here, but it just annoyed me a little bit. Like, someone's been brutally murdered. I don't feel like you need to bring up she was a heroin addict, she was a prostitute, she was this, she was that. Like, trying to outshadow that a woman, a mother, has been brutally murdered.
Do you think in general, just to justify the act that some people do when they go after sex workers specifically, that they bring it up to kind of lessen the act?
Yeah.
Do you think? Almost like victim blaming to a degree?
Yeah. Like, I don't know, you don't see all the time a retail or a barista was brutally murdered and she'd had a past of smoking the devil's lettuce, and you know what I mean? Like, you don't see that all the time on some, but I feel like when it is around sex workers, they're really like, she was a sex worker.
Yeah, they don't generally lead with your occupation.
Yeah. So it annoyed me a little bit in this, and you'll see why as well. So on Jasmine's body, they also found that she had no defensive wounds or drugs in her system, So it looked like it may have been a surprised attack. Possibly a client or something, in the middle of doing things. At the crime scene, they were able to find unique tyre tracks, which would later help them find the murderer, as well as boot prints, semen on her shirt, and DNA under her fingernails. Unfortunately, even though, yes, they had semen, it was kind of like being a prostitute. Whose was it? That kind of thing.
Could have been a number of Johns.
Yeah, literally a number of Johns. I know that sounds really bad, but... So they tested, didn't get a hit in the database. As I mentioned earlier, not having any ID on her, apparently the officers took a few photos as Jasmine had some distinctive tattoos. And in an interview, they said, this is what annoyed me. Given the clothing she had on, / didn't have on, they thought she may be a prostitute from the Fortitude Valley. So images were sent to that station where they did confirm she was from there. Like, I'm sorry, but what does a prostitute wear?
Any item of clothing.
Yeah. Like wearing boots and that, she's a prostitute. How do you know? Like literally in a documentary I saw,
listen, if you're not familiar with Australia in general, if you find yourself in the valley on a Friday or a Saturday night, everyone looks like a prostitute. Have you seen half the shit people wear?
Well, or don't wear.
And I'm using like quotation marks, looks like a prostitute. No one looks like a prostitute.
Yeah.
But I just think that statement they made is dumb.
Yeah, and it's literally this officer is looking deadpan in the camera being, given the clothes she was wearing, we assume she was a prostitute in the valley. Okay.
But also, you can take someone's clothes off or put clothes on. You can, after the person's dead, you can dress them as a bunny rabbit if you feel like it.
Yeah.
Or you can take their pants off and leave them in that. It's messed up.
Yeah. So confirming her location after sending the images and everything to the police station, they started talking around to a few colleagues, pimps, friends, that kind of thing, to try and piece together her last moments and what had happened. So a friend of Jasmine's by the name of Renee was actually able to tell detectives what she was wearing that night, which was a beige top and jacket. So this helped them find her through security footage, which unfortunately was a dead end as they only found her going to a BP service station at around 8:30 p.m. the night before, and then the trail went cold. Do you think walking through the valley you're safe? Cameras be everywhere.
I almost wish... Have you ever seen security systems in the UK?
No.
Like they have literally got cameras on every street corner. Just in case anything like that happens, they can track out exactly where they went.
Well, you don't think about it. You don't think about going here like, I'm on camera. I got you on candy camera now. So at this point, the officers are not too sure who they're looking for. Could be an ex-boyfriend, current boyfriend, a pimp, a client, who knows. Obviously, with her line of work, the suspect list might be pretty high. They went around asking about any enemies, that kind of thing, just trying to get a feel, see what kind of person she was, clientele, that kind of thing. Funny note, which is not funny, but given prostitution is illegal, as in walking the streets in Australia, the girls were hesitant to talk to police, but once they were told, we're not here to find out what you're doing, honey, we're trying to find out what has happened to your friend, they did cooperate. So with no leads to go off, police investigated the tyre marks and boot marks. They even went around to tyre places hoping to find a unique tread that the dealers were selling, trying to find the make of the tyre, also finding out the actual boot print that was found, and it ended up being a T-boot that had been around for about 30 years and would be difficult to find anything just based off that. But obviously this will later help them down the track. And I find so interesting.
What is a T-boot?
So it's a brand of... This is one thing that always blows my mind, is that literally from a print, they are able to work out the make of the boot and what it is. So a T-boot is a brand of, like a workman's boot.
And they'd be able to tell by the pattern it left in the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? Like you're literally looking at a print and they can find out exactly what it is. Now, a suspect did come up. He was a previous boyfriend of Jasmine's, and it had been said that he treated her badly in the past and had previously murdered someone, Yeah, just a little, just murdered someone as well.
Well, I can understand why they fingered him for the crime.
Did you say fingered him?
I wasn't meaning like insertion.
Okay. How long are we going to go without me being...
Dirty?
How long's this? About 10 minutes in? They found him, interviewed him, and let him go due to him having a solid alibi. And the tyre and shoes could not be linked to him as well. So obviously that's going to help they know what they're looking for tire marks and
Did we get his name as well?
No, actually. I couldn't find what his name was.
Just so I know who to avoid.
Yeah. No, it's funny, a couple of the suspects they name, I couldn't actually find the person's name, maybe just because it was just more of a mention to say, hey, we're doing this and this, but nothing came of it. Another man who was told to the officers by the girls that there had been a man kind of hanging around them, being a bit creepy, standing over them, that kind of thing. They looked into him as well because he had previously just come out of jail for stabbing someone. Yeah, all these little things lining up, but it's actually not them.
Australia, fuck yeah.
Yeah, so once again, he would also be eliminated, even though you think, oh, he goes stabby stab. Maybe this is the guy. So they're kind of hitting a bit of a block in the case. Obviously, the person they are looking for is not your usual suspect. They're still unsure if she knows them or could maybe be a client or even a new client she met that night. So they tracked down a few of her clients as well as taking samples, which they all agreed to, and they all soon would be eliminated too. But then of course you don't know, have you gotten all her clients? It's not like girls, well maybe nowadays they do, but back then I don't think they kept like a logbook of who I'm booking in, and it was just a first come first served, I think, back then.
Literally?
Yeah, literally. I didn't even try that time and it just came out. Oh.
Wouldn't it be funny if they had some kind of like a website and an interface? And they could just be, yep, this is my 1 a.m. client.
Well, I think a lot of the girls do that now because, like, I have sex workers on my Insta and they'll, DM me for this and book in, and they know what clients they're going to see. They don't just,
I suppose, but
pick off random off the street.
Isn't that more like an escort service, though?
Yeah, but because you're not allowed to be a prostitute unless it's a...
I think legally within Australia, there's a thing where it can't be implied that what your service is for sex.
Yes.
A lot of the times you have to say, I'm a companion.
Yeah.
I'm here to be your friend.
Yeah.
We are two adults, and if something sexual happens, then it happens. And I think it's particularly bad in like Brisbane.
On February 26th, 2003, around 6 months after Jasmine was murdered, council workers found the body of a woman at Deepwater Bend Reserve, which is in Bald Hills, another suburb in Brisbane's north. Fun, not so fun fact again, I actually lived on the road that connected to Deepwater Bend in 2011/2012.
I was going to say, did you do it?
Maybe. Who
Was
knows?
it you little nincompoop?
No. Well, in 2003, I was 13.
Well, my hands are really dry.
You were counting then, and then you're just looking at your hand. My hands are very dry. So it was close to home for me, and people would make jokes about it, but I didn't actually, like, as in, oh, don't go down to Deepwater Bend, you'll get murdered. And I was like, ha ha ha. Maybe because it's a creepy looking place.
Yeah, and that's what they say about the valley too. Don't go out to the valley, you'll turn gay.
Is that what they say?
Yeah.
I missed the memo. Now, the body that was found was of a woman who was face down in the dirt, completely naked, except for one sandal on her foot. She was hog-tied with ropes, with crimps at the end of the ropes that were not like your average... You know what I'm talking about? Like a little metal... I'm making like clipping motions, which the listeners cannot see.
Like a carabiner or like a...
Like a carabiner?
Do you know what I really want to know? And
How do I dress myself in the mornings?
Well...
Because I'm that special.
How do you make it out of bed in the morning?
Yeah.
No. Did they find her other sandal? I must know.
I don't think so.
Is it still out there somewhere? Do you reckon if someone went looking hard enough, they could find it today?
I don't know.
Creepy.
Yeah, that would be creepy. She was also blindfolded and had been stabbed a total of 24 times. So
That
this
sounds frenzied.
Getting a bit more. But they actually found her stab wounds were the same depth, but looked more deliberate this time, which is interesting. So even though there's more stab wounds, I think maybe by the way they were punctured, it looked more...
Did they have a pattern in the way of the location that they were chosen to like attack?
I don't think so. I think it was just more of like chest, stomach, just front. She would later be identified as another sex worker by the name of Julie McCall, who was 42 and a mother of 3. And she was a Kiwi.
Oh.
Yeah, when you look at a photo of her, she actually looks like a super cute, like just a fun time.
She's a fun time girl.
No, she just looked like a bit, I don't know, when you look at the photo, you'll see what I mean. She looked very lovely. Not being sarcastic, she actually looked like a...
very lovely.
Yeah, she was very lovely. Now, by this time, the police knew they had a serial killer on the loose, and the public/media was starting to think the same. People are getting anxious. Girls surely would be afraid going to work as well. 2 sex workers, 6 months, both from the valley. A task force was created, and this is so lame. Do you want to know the name of it?
What was it?
Task Force Midas. Just wait. I just have to quickly mention, because you will eye roll so hard, but in the doco at the end, the officer said something along the lines of, "Oh, it's funny the case was called Midas because everything we touched turned to gold." No.
Cringe.
Yeah, just no. Shush your mouth. And he was just so like, oh, he is so thrilled with himself. No. Now, with this task force formed, I actually want to mention they started to think these killings may also be linked to some murders that happened 5 years prior. Look at me using me words. So we'll jump back to what these murders are. I'm not going to dive into it because it's not actually linked to this case. I mean, it could be, but who knows? So in February 1998, Elizabeth Henry, a mother of 6, was working the intersection of Harcourt and Brunswick. She was 30 years old and also 4 months pregnant. Her body was found at Sanford in northwest Brisbane with multiple head trauma and circular-shaped wounds on her back, which was pretty much like it looked like a branding iron of little circular, yeah. She had also been set on fire and was found tied face down in the dirt. So I think really the only link is the tied down face in the dirt sex worker. Because branding...
That doesn't seem to be a part of the current MO.
Yeah.
But that's also overkill.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's doing the most.
Yeah. Whereas these 2 bodies stabbed, tied, face down, naked.
Left.
But not branded and
not
tried to set on fire. Like that's more, yeah. So a few days before that attack, her friend Karen, who was 29, was beaten into a coma and left in Harcourt Street. She was taken to hospital with severe head injuries and she spent the next 8.5 years needing 24-hour care and suffering from permanent brain damage. Karen actually died on September 2nd, 2006. So that's why it then became 2 murders. When Karen was beaten, they actually sent out a $250,000 police reward for any info on the attempted murder of Karen, given and obviously passed away yet. They also put in there that she had been talking to a male person near the intersection of Brunswick Street and Harcourt. It was said they had an argument that was violent and witnesses reported hearing breaking glass and loud thumping noise where the victim was found. So let's jump back to Julie McCall, who was found in 2003, and what was found at the crime scene. Apparently at the time it had been raining, so there was no footprints or tyre tracks. However, police did get another lead. Another sex worker by the name of Jacinda Horn told police she had been approached by a man in the valley shortly before Julie disappeared. So this man wanted sex with a bit of a twist. He wanted to tie her up with her hands behind her back and her feet together and also blindfold her. Now, do you remember who else was found like that? She obviously turned him down and left. This man would then go on to attack Julie. How fucking scary is that? Knowing that you've gone, no thank you. And then the next victim that he's found, he's murdered. Jacinda was able to provide a detailed description of the car, which was a twin cab ute that was very distinctive as it had big white stripes on the side and a few custom parts. So it was distinctive as fuck. She also gave a pretty good description of the guy that they then were able to do a sketch with. He was described as being a Caucasian man, overweight with a beer gut and a mustache. Good on ya, honey. But it sounds like nearly every Australian man.
I was going to say, yeah. I know like 6 of those myself.
I know a few of them. So the police did end up finding this vehicle on the CCTV footage, the same as last time where they went looking, and they actually found the vehicle had been seen 3 times the night of Jasmine's murder. Now, unfortunately, it was raining and the footage was just shit, so they couldn't get the number plate or the exact make and model. These guys, well, Team Midas, went around to dealerships to ask people to look at the vehicle to try and advise what it was because they just couldn't tell. Once they found out the make being a Mitsubishi Triton, given this is such a well-known car, they wanted to be able to track down the tyre tracks.
Why are you so weird? Oh. You hurt me sometimes.
They found out it was a cheap tyre import, which led to one business, and they found out this one business was the only supplier of this tyre and had been out since 2000. So only a couple of thousand had been sold. Which
Just
seems
a couple of thousand.
Yeah, it seems like a lot, but I mean, if it's one shop, you're going to narrow down compared to so many dealerships all over the country. So obviously they grabbed the list of customers. So now back to working out the car, they found this list of people who owned that kind of vehicle around the same area of the murders, which I find funny. Like, they've just got access to who has this and that car. Do they know what car I drive?
Even I don't know. I've been in it. I'm car dyslexic.
Now, remember how I mentioned earlier it had distinctive import items on the car and these big fuck-off stripes on it?
Yeah.
Well, get this. Officers were literally driving around the areas just looking for leads and were actually on the Gateway motorway when they noticed a vehicle that hit this description, but it was driving in the opposite direction. Can you imagine that? They tried to follow the vehicle, but by the time they were able to take an exit and turn around, it was just impossible. They couldn't find it. So they were like literally
Right there.
And you can see the footage as well, and you can see there's a man in the car, and it's the car. It's crazy. So by now the police have been able to bring down the suspect range of the vehicle by about 160 in Queensland and 26 in the area they're focusing on.
That's much better than thousands.
Yeah. So going through this list, they found a man by the name of Francis Michael Fahey, who was 50 years old and was a father of 3 who lived in Narangba, which is not far from Bald Hills. It was mentioned that his grandfather was a police officer and Fahey himself was a former paramedic. So it just doesn't seem likely, right? So this is where we're going to go for a little dive into Francis and my I don't know how I feel about this, but murder is still murder.
I must say, I'm definitely not liking this a lot because all of these names of the places you're talking about I've been to.
Yeah.
And I live near.
Yeah.
So.
Because we're in Brisbane.
Yeah, gross.
Now, Fahey started in the AMBOs, or should I say Queensland Ambulance Service. Look at me.
Look at you.
In 1970 and worked on and off as an ambulance officer until around 2002.
Don't know if you picked it up, but my ankle clicked again.
Oh, I did not hear that.
Pardon me. Sorry.
So he was an ambulance officer until around 2002 when he was medically discharged after 28 years due to post-traumatic stress disorder and was prescribed the antidepressant Effexor. I think that's how you say it.
Was it very effective?
Oh, obviously not. Effexor.
Effexor.
I wanted Effexor. But did you remember he got discharged in 2002? When did the murder happen?
2002, baby.
Mm-hmm. So I looked this drug up as I've been on antidepressants, a fair few of them. I've tried, a bit here and there. I've never heard of this one though.
I just stick with masturbation.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe I should try that out. Get rid of all me mental health.
Yeah, just flick the bean. You'll be fine.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Now I'm just thinking of beans. Mung beans.
Taste my bean.
So we know antidepressants have bad side effects and they can change the person as well if it doesn't, work out well for you. Obviously not going to make you murder someone, but it could add to any kind of thing. So post-traumatic stress could be a bad side effect. So Effexor is an antidepressant used to treat major depressive disorder, anxiety, social anxiety, and panic disorder. Some of the known side effects are just your usual sleep problems, making you more anxious, changes in weight. This one had a disclaimer to report any new or worsening symptoms to your doctor, such as changes in mood or behaviours, anxiety, panic attacks, feel impulsive, irritable, agitated, hostile, aggressive, and more depressed.
And bloodlust.
But to have that as a disclaimer on the product, I'm like, So some drugs are just not good for people. You really have to find one that suits you and doesn't make you affect. So I only say this as Beth Fahey, Michael's wife, was reported as saying he changed after being let go and taking the new medication and blames the antidepressants for his murder spree. I get it, but also, again, murder is not okay. She claimed the drug eventually turned him into a monster who preyed on vulnerable sex workers.
No.
Yeah. Like, I feel like, yes, his mood may have changed. He's obviously been discharged. He's in a bad headspace. But it's not going to make you go, I want to go out and kill working girls.
But what if those desires were already there before?
And
this just gave you that. Mm-hmm. They said you could feel impulsive, right? So maybe it made him more impulsive. He just did it now.
But, like, the fact that he was also discharged that year and then starts killing that year is a bit...
Discharge.
I don't like discharged.
No one does.
Now, I just want to chuck in a few quotes from Beth that I found in some articles, just to make you see why I feel a bit on the fence besides the whole murder is murder. So Beth was quoted as saying, "I'm looking for explanations, and probably the families are looking for explanations. I can't imagine how devastated they must feel knowing that an ambulance officer has killed their daughters."
Yeah.
He is truly a loving and gentle person. You can't possibly imagine what it's like to have a loving, caring husband one day and then suddenly he becomes this feeble person who would lay down on the ground and cry because he can't get better. My God, if these medical practitioners had done their job, the first one wouldn't be dead. The second one wouldn't be dead. There's a lot of things that wouldn't have happened, she said. So she's pretty much just trying to get across that he was not a monster before. Now, I did find something funny in being that last year, the British regulators recommended the use of the antidepressant, the one that he was on,
Effexor,
be restricted after clinical trials showed some patients became suicidal and even homicidal. But of course, Effexor manufacturers rejected the claims, saying, 10 million people had used it safely for the past 10 years. Huh. So it also sounds like it hasn't been around for that long as well.
Well, 10 years is not a long time.
Yeah, for FX. So I know I digressed and I know he is a murderer. I'm not saying he's not guilty, but I just wanted to add that little part in.
For sure, but I don't think that a medication will turn you into a raping murderer.
Oh, God, no.
I don't
no, 100%. And this is where I'm just on the fence of it all because I kind of feel like if he didn't have a mental breakdown, would he have done,
I feel
coming
bad.
off post-traumatic stress?
Don't get me wrong, I feel bad for him because he has PTSD and that shit is hard, and then he has depression. That shit sucks, man. But,
and you've literally just been let go after nearly 30 years.
Yeah, which is going to have also a very terrible, impact on your mental health too.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't just wake up one day deciding that you're going to murder someone or rape them.
Yeah.
Sorry.
100%. But also, I don't think, as we'll go into a story, I don't think it was rape.
So you don't think he has sex with them?
Yes, but consensual. They're sex workers.
It was consensual under the consideration that they were going to get paid for the job.
Yeah.
But I bet they didn't.
Well, no, because he murdered them.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
But do we know if they had any money on them at the time? Did he take the money? Did that come up?
I know with one of them, it was said she had a black purse and stuff like that. They didn't actually, I don't think they said they found any of the belongings at his home, so he could have just dumped them somewhere. It didn't sound like he was keeping trophies or anything.
Well, they lost them on the way, but I'm not so much meaning trophies, but I'm meaning put our minds in the mindset of a murderer. Let's say that we have located our Jane and she's already had a very busy night. She has $60. I don't know how much they charge. My question is more so, were they found with the money they had earned that evening, or was the money gone to? Was he taking their cash?
Well, they had nothing on them besides half clothing and...
Which means he was probably taking their money too.
So as I was saying earlier, police were looking into Fahey. They noticed he had a work cover fraud, which, super annoying, I couldn't find any info onto what the actual work cover fraud was. Was he just claiming against mental health and then maybe... I don't know. I couldn't find out what fraud he committed.
Kind of like workers' comp getting.
Yeah. So anyway, he had spoken of uncontrollable rages and disturbing nightmares. Now, this could also be linked to the medication. It was also noted that he'd also been admitted for psychiatric treatment several times. And I'm sorry, this is where I go to either the system has failed and they're going, yeah, he's okay, or he's not fully comfortable to open up to how he feels. Because if you've been admitted to a psych place 7 times, to me, that's a big red flag. This person should not be out in the world if they've got all this stuff going on, nightmares, aggression, blah, 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 PTSD. Why are they being let out? You're not just cured like that. I don't know how that system works when you go to a psych hospital, how you can get out. But when you look at that and go 7 times, maybe we should keep a bit more of an eye on you.
I would. By maybe the 3rd time, that would already be a big red flag for me.
Yeah. So obviously he's not doing well, and not going to lie, I just don't feel like we do enough for men and women in the services. I mean, the shit they would see, how does that not break you? But like, I guess in this case, is this what pushed him over the edge?
Yeah.
I don't think we do enough for people in the
agree.
services. The officers were able to find a mugshot which appeared to have matched the drawing that was made earlier. Officers went to his address, and of course, what vehicle is in the driveway?
Or is it one with big fuck off white stripes and like imported shit on it?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Big fuck off white stripes. Now, surveillance was put on this vehicle, which in my mind, they don't, like, do you not already have enough evidence? Or I guess they just keep going to get as much as they can to make a more concrete case.
Hilarious. Well, they need something more than anything that's just circumstantial.
Yeah. So from this, they found Fahey did frequent Deepwater Bend to fish. Now, one day they had a little old look-see in his car while he's obviously out fishing because they're tailing him and stuff. They saw a pair of T-boots and that his tyres did actually match the tracks they were looking for. Exact match.
So what they have is a composite sketch now, right? Mm-hmm. They have a composite sketch, T-boots, fucking the same car, same tyres.
Mm-hmm. Like, you got your guy now.
Yeah.
Now, this pretty much confirms for the officers that the two murders of Julie and Jasmine are actually linked. So the last missing piece of the puzzle was the DNA. Now, given the car was being watched, they were able to obtain a cigarette butt that was thrown out the window. Obviously, the DNA was a perfect match. Now, around this time, Renee came forward with some important evidence. She told officers she had a near-death experience with a client. She was shown a photo board of men, to which she picked out a pic of Fahey. He was a customer of hers in 2002, 6 months before Jasmine was murdered. Renee gave a rundown of the night. She advised that they had sex in his car, and as she was about to redress herself, he pulled out a pair of handcuffs and he said he was with the ATO and she was under arrest.
The Australian Tax Office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, you go with the ATO, okay, sure. She managed to escape and he attempted to run her down, as you do. So now police have worked out a pattern. He's getting worse every 6 months. So his violence is now escalating.
It's escalating, yeah.
Yeah. So they know they're on, a time limit now. They need to get everything they can, put this guy away. On 7th of May 2003, 9 months after Jasmine's murder, police swooped in on Fahey's home, brought him in for questioning, and forensic officers went through his house searching for evidence. Of course, they find the murder weapon, a hunting knife he used for pigging, his Ambo-issued T-boots at the front door. At the front door. But yeah, they actually found out that the ambulance issued T-boots to their officers.
Ah.
So these were at the front door, and they actually found a little bit of Jasmine's blood still on them. And I think it was literally just a speck. So maybe being black boots, I don't know, he was lazy and just didn't clean them, thought it was fine.
He's 50, right? His eyes probably aren't great anymore.
Yeah. They also found the same unique rope and a tool that matched the ones used on Julie. So that little crimping tool thingy. Because it was so unique within the rope, apparently. It was like one of those little ending, like a clamp thing before the end of the rope. So while all of this is going down, police question Fahey. Now, I want to run through this a bit as I find his interview very interesting. There is a bit of a video footage in the documentary I found on Francis Michael Fahey, and the officer is pretty much sitting right next to him, and it just seems like the most Aussie interaction I have ever seen. Like, it does not look like something of CSI interrogation. Like, it is the most Australian thing I've ever seen. You really need to look at it. How about we look at it now?
Okay.
I got some questions for you at the end of this, and we're near the end. So we're just going to take a little second.
Hold tight. We'll be right back.
Hold your nips.
All right. Well, we're back.
We're back. We watched the video. Well, I watched it as well.
I watched the video.
So yeah, now that you know, I'm just going to say a few more things and then seeing what you've seen, I want to get some feedback. So the interaction starts off with a detective saying something along the lines of, "Mate, we're a part of Task Force Midas, which is investigating the murders of a number of prostitutes in the Valley area over a period of time. Do you understand that?" And old mate Fahey is sitting at the table with one arm up, holding his chin, and he just goes, "Yeah." Because that's how the officers talk in my mind. You heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He let detectives know that he'd been in the valley before, late at night, as he made claims that a family member was pretty much a prostitute, something along the lines of that, and he was keeping an eye out for her to make sure she was safe. Quotation marks. Safe.
That is honestly one of the dumbest plots I think I've ever heard.
So during the interview, he seemed pretty chilled, collected, and just relaxed, really. But he went into this full spiel saying he never slept with any of them or used their services and didn't know the two girls that had been murdered. He did say on a few occasions he would let the girls come sit in his car if it was raining, as he said, and I quote, "I'm not an asshole, if you know what I mean." So it's kind of like he knew what they were trying to ask and he was just trying to give them good explanations. And by them, I mean the police, obviously. He was also seen laughing during the interview about the varying prices for the girls that he said he found out after chatting for a while. He also openly admitted that he liked to fish at Deepwater Bend. As another quote, he likes to stay away from the fucking idiots on their jet skis. So this interview went on for like 4 hours and not once did he flinch or show signs of remorse. Now, the two officers did a cool little trick where they're like, "Oh, mate, you know, we just got to wait a bit more for some results, blah, blah, you know how it is." And they leave the room and say they will suspend the interview for now. Keeping in mind they are currently going through his house. I mean, they've already got this guy and they're just waiting for him to open up, pretty much. So apparently the break was a bit lengthy, just to get him to stew in his thoughts. Now, he might not have liked the waiting, or maybe he was just starting to realise he just needs to man up and confess to what he did. So he calls the two officers in. He sighs and tells them, whilst fidgeting with his fingers and just, you know, mucking around, he just wants to get something off his chest. Like, you need to see it. He just looks like a completely different person, like almost shy now. That's how I saw it.
The way I saw it, I saw at the beginning someone putting on a show just to try and... He was trying to exude confidence in his answers and he was coming up with this big story, but it was... When they came back, I remember that first segment was like, he had a 4-hour interview before they even took a break. But by the time they come back, he did kind of have the demeanour of someone who already knew they were caught at that point.
Yeah. He said, "I'm admitting to 2. Only the one at Hendra and the one at Deepwater Bend." Faye states, "This bird jumped in and wanted to know if I wanted any company. And I said, yeah, I don't mind. She told me what the prices were, $50 for a blowjob. And it kind of appealed to me, so I agreed. Very cheap for a blowjob."
Cheap?
Is
That's
it?
pricey for a blowjob, yeah.
Oh, I was like, $50.
I was like, it better come with like a goodie bag.
Oh, really? Oh, to me, I'm like,
$50, yeah.
That's expensive.
Well, you'll have some people, from what I've heard.
Yeah. From what I've heard. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. No, I've never solicited in that kind of way. But from what I've heard, you'll have people who will offer like $50 for the hour.
Oh.
Yeah, but remember, these aren't... these women probably don't have an ABN.
Yeah, okay.
They are just getting cash on the street.
Quick cash.
They don't really care.
Yeah.
So when he said 50, I was like, oh, that's a lot.
I thought it was cheap. I know nothing about BJ prices, it seems. He also said, "We drove into a vacant block. She wanted to be paid first up, and so I paid her the 50, and we walked to the back of the car and had oral sex. The condom broke, and next thing I recall is that I'm hooking it along the bloody gateway at a great rate of knots."
And if you are not from Australia, hooking it just means gapping it, just gunning it, just
Getting
zooming along.
Fuck out of there.
Yeah.
He also said, "The other one, I pulled up there at night at the Night Owl. I got a cup of coffee from there and I think I got something to eat. I can't remember what I got to eat. I pulled into a side street. I think it was on the right-hand side, heading back into the mall. I pulled up there to finish my coffee. I got a tap on the window. A bird was offering different services and what have you. She offered to give me a blowjob for $25, I think it was, and she sat in the car with me while I was finishing my coffee when she started talking about what turned me on."
And like 25 is definitely closer to what I've heard the street value is for a gobby. So.
Oh, really? I was like, girl, you're selling yourself short, $25.
No, that other one must have offered some prestige services, girl.
Yeah. So he then said that led to the bondage thing. Then she suggested we go back to her place. I said I wouldn't be into that, in that I wouldn't feel safe. And the only place I could think of was Deepwater Bend. And I told her about it and she agreed to go. With this sort of weather, she said, I'm not going to get much business tonight. So also keeping in mind if you're from the Brisbane area, Fortitude Valley to Deepwater Bend is a bit of a drive. Like, I want to say half an hour, 40 minutes kind of thing. Like,
give or take.
Yeah, so for a working girl to get into a car and drive off somewhere like that, to me, that's a weird-ass long drive.
She may not have had any other clients that day, that night so far. She didn't know if she'd have any more later. She thought, screw it.
Yeah. Well, it'd been raining that night, so she said they're not going to get much business.
But then Deepwater Bend, surely the mozzies would have been out too.
Oh yeah, fuck that. Not a nice place. He then said we drove there. I remember tying her up. I remember getting the blow job. The next thing I remember, I'm pulled up on the side of the road underneath the bridge and I'm using these drink bottles and cordial bottles to wash blood off my legs, and I threw me guts up. And I think I know the spot he's talking about because when I used to live there, some of the guys that lived on our street would kind of take their 4Bs under there, and it was like an undercover car washy kind of thing, like a natural would clean out under your car. I think that's the spot, and that's really gross because I've been there. As he spoke, he stretched his arms out in front of him. His eyes were down, his shoulders slumped. He looked relieved. It was all over. The detective asked him if he felt better. To a certain degree I do, and to a certain degree I don't, he said. I mean, I don't know why it happened. I don't know why it happened because I spent all my fucking life saving lives. Now I'm taking them and I don't know why. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences with a minimum 25 years on April 11, 2006. Now, that was the story of Francis Michael, I don't know how I feel about this, Fahey. Now, before I ask your thoughts, I just want to say again, murder is murder, no excuse, but there is a little bit of how did this happen to go from saving to killing. And I do feel bad he has post-stress, but obviously that does not mean it's okay to murder. And your thoughts?
Well, where do I start?
It was Saturday morning.
I took my watch off. Never mind. It was 10:19 a.m. Saturday, the 11th of September.
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
My feelings don't change as to what I said earlier, that I don't think that medication is going to change you to that degree to commit murder. Okay, he didn't rape them before or after, but technically, in a sense, he was supposed to be paying for them for a service, which he said he did. However, he also killed them, and the reports didn't make any reference to money being found on the bodies.
Yeah.
There was nothing there that said that, right?
Yeah.
To me, he was just playing the ultimate game of GTA.
I shouldn't laugh.
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that.
Where it's like, you can sleep with a prostitute and then you beat her to get your money back. That's what they do in the game.
Yeah.
I've never actually played GTA.
Haven't you really?
Not once.
I was playing it since it first came out when I was like super young, and it was just a little dot on the screen going...
We were too poor. We couldn't afford it. So I have a number of thoughts. I think one thing that people don't talk about enough is the link between being a paramedic or being someone in the service industry. What do you see a lot of? Blood and probably death, disembowelment from accidents that happen. You're surrounded by that kind of stuff all the time.
And also getting abused, especially AMBO officers nowadays.
Sure, but this is my thought, Dal.
Yeah, okay.
To make my point, there's a very thin line between being there and having blood on your hands and experiencing that kind of stuff, and then you no longer have access to that anymore. Maybe there's a part of you that you've realized enjoys it, so now you've gone and kind of done it for yourself.
That's interesting.
You know, like it's a pretty intense profession to be in. I'm just saying. Do I feel bad for this guy? No, not a bit. If you got blind drunk and high as a motherfucker and woke up and someone was in your bed dead, and then you turned yourself in and you said, I don't know how it happened, there were a lot of drugs involved, something bad happened, I must have done it, la la la, then I can feel bad for you because that's situational. If you're not, and then that happens, and then it happens again, that to me tells me enough. I know enough about you.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad for him at all.
Yeah. I don't know.
Not one iota of badness.
Just in my mind, though, how he says he vomited his guts up and he can't remember actually stabbing them, but he says, obviously I did.
But that was the second one. Where did he vomit the first time? And he's claiming that he blacked out, right? Between when the condom broke and when he was just hooking it on the highway or wherever it's going. I just think there's some things missing there.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously murder is murder. If he did it the first time, he obviously knows he did it. Maybe not all the details, but yeah, he should have turned himself in. But I don't
100%.
know. Maybe being a paramedic, I think it just made me feel for him a little bit because you would have seen a lot of stuff in 30 years, but obviously does not.
Maybe I'm just
okay.
a little more heartless than you are. I don't want to see the good things he's ever done.
Yeah,
to
see
me,
him as a person.
I see him as a person, but that's the issue. I see him as a person and people are flawed. I get that. I choose to base it on the act. They did this. They're guilty. They got caught out. I don't feel bad for them. I feel bad for the victims and the victims'
100%.
families, but
100%.
That's where you and I differ a little bit.
Yeah, I just find it interesting to see what has made that person crack. And some of the cases, you can tell they were just cracked from the start.
Oh, yeah.
And then other cases, like this one, where I think you said earlier, maybe he already had this in him, and then it's just kind of opened it up more kind of thing.
Potentially. It is strange, though, I will give you that. He's in his, 50s?
Yeah.
And he hasn't, as far as we know,
Yeah.
hasn't done anything up until he hit his 50s. That is weird, but he did have kind of a different outlet, really.
And I don't want to bring the whole bondage thing into it, but he obviously had a thing for bondage. Was that always there? Were him and his wife into that? Or was that something that he couldn't do with his wife? So then he's tried to go look at working girls to try and fulfill that. Yeah, and then it's just obviously...
It's gone from there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd love to know what your listeners think.
Yeah, what do you think? Oh, well, the more you know.
Yeah, the more you know.
And here we are now. And now we're leaving, so...
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Mung beans. Mung beans.
Mung beans. Did you like that?
I love that.
Mung beans. Mung beans. All right, bye.